When I was 16, my parents used to joke to their friends that I was the family's little accident. My mom would laugh, point at me, and say, birth control is not foolproof. It's 99% effective, and he's the other 1%. That night, I left with 40 bucks in my pocket and a backpack slung over my shoulder. 6 years passed before they finally tracked me down. And today, they showed up at my door, eyes red and faces soaked, begging me to let them in, hoping I'd just forget everything like it was no big deal. And yeah, this story's gotten long. That's what happens when you bottle up 6 years of pain and pretend you're fine. I've always known I wasn't exactly the family favorite. My brother Tyler, he was the golden boy, planned, praised, varsity athlete, honor roll kid. The full brochure me? According to the jokes my mom liked to roll out at dinner parties, I was the result of trusting off-brand pharmacy condoms. Real crowd pleaser, right? She'd been cracking that joke since I was 8 years old. Back then, I thought it was completely normal for your mom to turn you into a punchline. But you learn to cope. I developed this skill where I could laugh through the stings like I'd grown emotional armor. When adults asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I'd smirk and say, a tax deduction, because that's what my dad called me once after his third beer. People thought I was clever, quick-witted. Nah, I was just recycling the material I'd grown up hearing. Everything changed the night of my mom's birthday dinner. Not the quiet one we did as a family, but the real event. That was just the four of us at some average sit-down place where my dad grumbled about overpriced food while sipping his fourth scotch. The big event happened 2 nights later when my mom invited over her work friends, and not just any colleagues. These were the women she'd been desperately trying to impress for years. The country club types she envied and imitated. Our house wasn't anything special, but she went full Pinterest mode for that dinner. New placemats, fancy candles, the good china that usually just gathered dust in the cabinet. She told Dad to wear his one decent shirt and beg him not to pass the 5-drink limit. Tyler got the make us look good pep talk me. I didn't get a single word. Not even a basic try not to embarrass me. That silence should have tipped me off. The evening kicked off with me acting as the unpaid waiter. Michael, do something useful for once. So there I was, walking around with a tray of appetizers while Mom bragged about Tyler's baseball scholarship prospects. Dad kept it together for about an hour, sipping slowly and nodding in all the right places. I was basically invisible, which honestly was ideal in a setting like that. Then someone brought up kids, maybe a question about family planning or how pricey raising children had become. Some woman with a Karen Gray haircut made a comment about how expensive kids are these days. And that's when it happened. Mom, already 4 glasses into the white wine, gave me that look. I knew it all too well. That watch this, I've got a good one expression as I was clearing plates. She pointed straight at me. Birth control is only 99% effective, she said, then paused like a comedian timing the punchline. He's the 1%. The room erupted in laughter. Even my dad, who usually just faded into the background during these social events, let out this big belly laugh like it was the most hilarious thing he'd ever heard. Meanwhile, I was standing there holding a stack of dirty glasses, watching a room full of adults laugh over the fact that I was never supposed to be born. Tyler wasn't laughing, though. He was just staring at his plate like he wanted to meld into it. At least someone at that table understood just how messed up this was. But Mom wasn't done, of course not. She raised her wine glass and added, "We already had the perfect kid," nodding toward Tyler. Michael hears what we call the family mistake. More laughter. Someone, maybe my dad's boss, I don't know, actually said, "Ouch, bet that one's gonna leave a mark," like we were filming a bad sitcom instead of sitting in our own home. I didn't scream. I didn't smash the glasses. Even though my hands were shaking, I just quietly set them down on the table and went upstairs. No one noticed. The conversation had already moved on to someone's trip to Cancun. I sat on my bed, and something inside me just shut off, like a computer freezing from running too many programs at once. Emotionally, the screen just went blue, then black. I knew right then that I was leaving that night. I dumped out the textbooks from my school backpack because, really, who needs trigonometry when you're about to be homeless? I packed what I could, a couple of shirts, some jeans, clean underwear, a toothbrush, the 40 bucks I'd gotten from my grandma for my birthday. I'd been saving it for a new video game. I grabbed my phone charger, tossed in a couple of emergency Cliff Bars I kept stashed away for nights when Dad forgot groceries. While I was packing, Tyler came in. We didn't say a lot. We didn't need to. He already knew. Honestly, I think he saw it coming before I did. He handed me $120 from his own savings and his old phone. Still working, but not on the family plan. Told me he'd add 20 bucks of prepaid minutes the next day. They won't even notice you're gone until sometime tomorrow afternoon, he said. It wasn't cold or harsh, just matter of fact, like he was giving me a weather forecast for my escape, and in that moment, I nearly broke. Part of me wanted to unpack, crawl back into bed, and pretend it was just another night of being the joke at dinner. But then I heard the laughter again downstairs, and my mom's voice drifting up, mocking teenage attitude like I was just being dramatic. No, screw that. I was done. No second thoughts. No hesitation. I waited until the house had gone quiet around midnight. Mom had passed out on the couch with her wine glass still half full. Dad was snoring in the recliner, whiskey bottle tipped over beside him. Tyler had left his desk lamp on. The signal we used when we were kids, back when one of us was sneaking into the kitchen for late night snacks. All clear. I didn't leave a note. What would I even say? Thanks for making me feel like a tumor on your otherwise flawless family for 16 years. The night air was biting, that crisp, late October chill that wraps around your bones. I didn't have a plan, I didn't have a destination, but leaving still felt better than staying. I walked until I found a 24-hour McDonald's, parked myself in a booth, and used their Wi-Fi to figure out what came next. Ended up buying a Greyhound ticket to the next city over, not exactly a cross-country escape, but it was far enough to start over. That first week? Brutal. I slept at the bus station for 2 nights, eventually found a youth shelter that took me in for a couple weeks. They gave me a bed, hot meals, and just enough stability to land a dishwashing job at some rundown diner that didn't care I was underage, cash under the table. Wasn't much, but it kept me moving forward. Tyler kept in touch through a burner email account we set up just for this. He told me Mom cried for show when she reported me missing, tears streaming on cue. Then, the moment the police left, she shifted gears and said I was just being dramatic again. Dad got drunk and said I'd come crawling back once I got hungry enough. He was half right. I did get hungry. My stomach twisted itself in knots more than once, but I wasn't going back. Not when sleeping meant listening to strangers scream in their sleep at the shelter. Not when December rolled around and I still didn't own a proper coat. Hunger hurt, yeah, but going back, that would have gutted me. 2 months in, I met Max. He caught me sleeping in the break room at the diner during a shift. I was supposed to be scrubbing dishes. I figured I was fired. Instead, he sat down, handed me a cold basket of fries, and asked why I wasn't in school. I don't know why I opened up. Maybe because he looked like someone who already knew what broken looked like. I told him everything over those sad fries and a flat soda. Turns out Max had his own family screw-up story. Different situation, same flavor of rejection. He got it. He understood. He hooked me up with renovation work. Off the books at first, but eventually legit once I got my GED at 17. He even let me crash on his couch until I scraped together enough to afford my own place. And when I say place, I mean the saddest little studio apartment you can imagine. Peeling paint, smelled like mothballs, but it was mine. Those first 2 years were a blur. 12-hour days, cheap ramen dinners, and falling asleep to free YouTube videos about credit scores and how taxes worked. I didn't have a social life. Who had the time? It was just work, learn, survive. Tyler graduated and left for college, 3 states away. Smart move. We still emailed, but not as often. He was starting his life. I was building mine from the dirt up. By year 3, I was finally starting to feel human again. My new place didn't have mold. I'd enrolled in community college courses online, even went on a few Tinder dates that didn't end in disaster. My parents? Around month 5, they figured out I wasn't crawling back. They filed a missing persons report, but it fizzled. I was working under my legal name, paying rent, filing taxes. I wasn't hiding. They just weren't looking very hard. Finding the mistake wasn't high on their list. Tyler told me they turned my bedroom into a home gym by my 17th birthday. Dad took my old baseball cards. Some of them were actually worth something. Mom started telling the neighbors I was at a reform school for troubled kids. Easier to say that than admit you drove your youngest child out into the cold. That's when everything shifted. It stopped being about escaping. I didn't just want to survive anymore. I wanted to thrive. I wanted to become someone they'd regret losing. Someone they'd think about late at night when the guilt finally caught up. I let go of the anger. That kind of rage eats calories better spent climbing. Instead, I got strategic, cold, focused. I started seeing money not just as survival, but as leverage. Every paycheck, every in my online classes, every skill I picked up, it all became another brick in the wall between me and that dinner party where they laughed at my existence. Now it's been 6 years. I'm 22, I've got my own apartment, my own life, a real support system of people who actually give a damn. Tyler is still the only one who knows where I am. He swore he'd keep it that way. At least until last week, when he called to give me a heads up, said our parents were suddenly trying real hard to track me down. Not out of love, not out of guilt. They need something. I guess karma's finally called in their debt. And me? I'm the collections agent they never saw coming. Interest compounds daily on emotional debt. Update. So wow. Wasn't expecting the first part to blow up like it did. Rest in peace, my inbox, but seriously, thanks for all the awards and for validating that I'm not the crazy one here. And for those asking, yeah, it's real. I wish it wasn't. A few details tweaked for privacy, but the core? That's my life. Anyway, back to where I left off. Those first 2 years after leaving were just pure survival, double shifts, cold showers, and a mattress I pulled from behind a Goodwill. No shame. I sprayed it down with a whole can of Lysol before I ever laid on it. I'd go to the public library to check emails. That was where I got updates from Tyler. He'd fill me in on the situation at home. Apparently, Mom and Dad spent about 3 whole weeks looking for me. And by looking, I mean Mom posted a few dramatic Facebook updates using my old school photo. Just enough to soak up a fresh batch of sympathy reacts, Dad. He called exactly 2 of my friends. That was the grand total of their search effort for their missing child. By month 4, Tyler sent me a screenshot of one of Mom's posts. She was proudly showing off how she'd converted my old bedroom into her dream home gym, Peloton knockoff. Decorative weights no one actually lifts, the whole aesthetic captioned. Making lemonade from life's lemons, #blessed, #fitmom. That post got more engagement than any of the ones about me being gone. Let that sit with you for a minute. By year 3, I had finally scraped together enough to enroll in community college. Nothing fancy. Just the cheap online courses you do after coming home from work with your back screaming from a 10-hour shift. My desk was a door balanced on 2 milk crates. And yeah, my posture paid the price. But that pain? It was different. That was growth pain, progress pain. I studied business and finance. Not out of some burning love for spreadsheets, but because I was starting to understand something important. Money is math, and math doesn't care if your parents loved you or not. That's around when I met Natalie. We were in an online study group. She messaged me privately after I fixed one of her Excel formulas during a group project. What started as assignment talk turned into late-night video calls about everything and nothing. She was sharp, working a law office while studying to become a paralegal. Our first in-person meetup was at this sad little coffee shop halfway between our apartments. I was nervous as hell, wore my only decent shirt, which, yes, still had a faint pasta stain I tried to cover with a pen. She showed up with her hair in a messy bun, glasses slipping down her nose, and a smile that made me forget, for a few hours, that I was the family disappointment. I told her everything that night, expected her to bolt, but instead, her expression changed. Colder than pity, she told me about her own childhood, about the mother who used her like an emotional dartboard. Different stories, same brand of damage. Natalie flipped the switch in my brain. Where I saw survival, she saw opportunity. She'd sit cross-legged on my floor, pointing at property listings and casually say things like, "That building's undervalued, the neighborhood's trending up." Meanwhile, Tyler kept feeding me updates from the home front. Dad's drinking had spiraled after getting laid off. Mom's social ambitions hit a wall once her fancy friends realized she couldn't actually keep up financially. Their credit card debt was snowballing. They'd refinanced the house. Twice, Tyler graduated and moved out for work. Smart move. He was still the only one who knew what city I lived in. Not the address, just the general area. We had a code in place for emergencies. If he ever texted me blue waffle, a gross old internet joke we'd laughed about as teens, it meant our parents had somehow tracked me down. By year 4, I finally started to get traction. I got promoted twice, moved into an apartment where the neighbors didn't scream through the walls at 3 in the morning, opened a secured credit card. My victories were small, but they felt monumental. I fell down the personal finance rabbit hole. Reddit forums, YouTube tutorials, budget spreadsheets, learned how compound interest worked, built an emergency fund. Every dollar saved was another nail in the coffin of ever needing my parents again. Natalie moved in with me at the start of year 5. We had a humble little 1-bedroom. Nothing fancy, but the appliances worked and the water stayed hot. We'd sit on our thrift store couch eating discount stir-fry, planning our financial future like most people plan their weddings. It was cozy, ours. That's when Tyler dropped the first real bomb. He called me, which was weird since we usually just text. The moment I saw his name on my screen, my gut twisted. Dad had lost the house. Not instantly, but it was coming. They were in pre-foreclosure, Years of unpaid bills, refinancing schemes, and one failed business venture after another had finally caught up with them. 90 days until the bank kicked them out. And suddenly, they remembered they had another son. Mom started posting baby photos of me on Facebook. Missing my baby boy every day. Please share to help us find Michael. Hashtag missing son, hashtag come home. Same pictures she couldn't be bothered to post when I actually vanished. And the comments? Pure comedy. I thought he was at that boarding school for troubled teens. Didn't you say he joined the military? That one was my personal favorite. Another commenter wrote, "Isn't that the room you turned into your gym?" Meanwhile, Dad had apparently joined a bunch of Facebook groups for parents of estranged children. Started painting himself as the heartbroken father, desperate to reconnect with his long-lost son. Tyler told me he even got sober for about 3 weeks, then fell right off the wagon again. I watched it all unfold from a distance, through Tyler's updates, through their social media, and something inside me started to shift. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was colder, more methodical. Natalie picked up on it. We'd be eating dinner, and she'd catch me zoning out, staring at nothing, silently crunching numbers in my head. She never tried to talk me out of it. Instead, she helped me sharpen it. I'd been saving and investing like a man possessed, living well below my means, slowly building a small but functional portfolio. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was enough to start making real moves. Natalie, with her paralegal knowledge, helped me understand the legal angles. That's when the plan took shape. I contacted the bank that held my parents' mortgage, used a different name, set up an LLC to keep it clean, told them I was a real estate investor interested in distressed properties in their area, made an offer to buy their specific loan. Banks don't care who pays off the debt, as long as someone does. 3 weeks and a mountain of paperwork later, I owned their mortgage. That they didn't know it yet, but they were now paying me for the roof over their heads. I didn't move to foreclose. Not right away. I wanted to wait, let them come to me, desperate, begging, clueless that I held their financial future in my hands. Natalie called it poetic justice. I called it balancing the ledger. Meanwhile, Mom's social media campaign to find her son was starting to get traction. Some local Facebook group in their town picked it up. People love a tearjerker reunion story, especially when they have no clue what really happened. The slip-up came 6 months ago. Tyler was visiting us for the weekend. He posted a casual Instagram story. Just the two of us at a restaurant. Nothing major, except the mural behind us was basically a neon sign screaming which city we were in. He deleted it within 10 minutes, but Mom had already seen it. Tyler showed me his phone. 27 unread texts from Mom. All some version of, "Is that Michael?" and "Where are you?" That night, he sent a blue waffle emergency text. We laughed it off. I mean, how could they possibly find me in a city of 2 million people off one background mural? Apparently, pretty easily, when desperation kicks in. 2 weeks ago, Tyler called, said Mom had joined every Facebook group tied to our city. She'd posted my high school photo all over the place, spinning this tale of a family torn apart. Then, last week, my neighbor across the hall mentioned someone had been asking about me. Show me a screenshot. It was Mom. She'd somehow found our apartment complex's community page and had been messaging residents. I changed the locks that day. Part of me wanted to vanish again, start fresh somewhere far away. But Natalie reminded me. I own their house now. I held every card. Maybe it was time to play them. 3 days ago, it happened. I was working from home when the buzzer rang. I checked the feed from the security cam. Blessed cheap smart home gear. There they were, Mom and Dad, standing at my door. They looked older, smaller, hollowed out. Dad had lost weight. Mom had gained it. Both looked like they hadn't slept in days. Dad kept shifting his weight like he needed a drink. Mom clutched her purse like it held her last ounce of dignity. I didn't answer. Just watched them press the buzzer 3 more times. Finally, they slid a handwritten note under the door, begging me to call about some urgent family matter. Tyler called that night and confirmed it. They were here about the house. They needed money. They needed their mistake to come bail them out. Natalie and I spent the next 2 days getting ready, gathering documents, going over everything, practicing what I'd say, how I'd hold my ground, how I'd keep my face blank. No emotion, no cracks. Yesterday morning, the buzzer rang again. Same desperate faces. This time I buzzed them up. 6 years of silence were about to snap. They had no idea what waited for them on the other side of that door. The son they discarded? He now owned their house. And memories aren't the only debts that collect interest. Final update. When I hit the buzzer, my hand was shaking. Not from fear, more like the jittery crash after 3 energy drinks on an empty stomach. That wired, restless feeling where your body can't tell if it's excited or panicking. I'd spent years planning this moment, rehearsed every word, practiced my expression in the mirror like some kind of lunatic. But when the knock came, every line I'd prepared disappeared. Natalie squeezed my hand before slipping into the bedroom. We'd agreed. This first round was just me and them. Opening the door felt surreal, like one of those anxiety dreams where you're back in high school half naked. Only this time, I was dressed just fine, and they were the ones exposed. Mom looked smaller. Her hair was now box-dyed. No more expensive salon gloss. That designer purse she used to parade around, replaced with something that looked like it came from a clearance bin. Dad had aged 15 years and 6. The alcohol blow was gone, but so was everything else. His face had collapsed inward, skin sagging where puffiness used to be. We stood in silence for 10 long seconds before Mom made this strange, breathless sound and tried to hug me. I stepped back. It hit her like a shove. She staggered emotionally, shoulders twitching as if she'd just been slapped. Dad didn't say anything, just stared past me, scanning the room. His eyes swept over the smart TV, the clean lines of decent furniture, registering, I think, that the ungrateful kid wasn't exactly living in squalor. Mom started crying right on cue. Classic, emotional manipulation was always her first move. Dad made a go at dignity, asked if they could come in and talk. I let them pass, but I didn't offer water, didn't offer seats, made them stand there awkward and out of place like pushy door-to-door salespeople. Mom started her monologue. How she couldn't believe she'd found me. How she never stopped looking. How many nights she cried herself to sleep. So worried. Dad nodded along like a bobblehead in a busted dashboard. Neither of them brought up the bedroom. They turned into a home gym. Isn't it funny how certain memories vanish when you're the one in need? I cut in. Didn't ask what they wanted to talk about. I asked why they were here. Why now? After 6 years of silence, the mask cracked instantly. Mom's sobs cut off mid-breath. Dad deflated, slumping like someone had pulled the last pin from a tent. They gave each other a look I knew all too well. The same one they'd exchanged when a credit card got declined in public. Then the truth spilled out. They were losing the house. The bank was foreclosing. They tried everything. Loan mods, refinancing, even a GoFundMe that raised a grand total of $87. Apparently, even extended family had tapped out of their financial soap opera. They needed somewhere to go. They needed help. They needed their mistake. I asked why they hadn't gone to Tyler. Cue the squirming. Turns out they had. Tyler had already given them $3,000. Money he really couldn't spare with student loans hanging over his head. They burned through in weeks, then came back for more. That's when Tyler finally drew a line. So they hunted down their backup plan. Me. The part that really threw me was how quickly they switched from pitiful to predatory. Mom's eyes kept flitting around the apartment, mentally appraising furniture. Dad asked casual questions about my job, my income. They were calculating, sizing up just how much they could extract. I told them I needed time to think. Mom immediately pushed, said they only had 2 weeks before they were out on the street. Dad followed with some offhand comment about needing at least $10,000 to secure a new place. Then came talk of deposits. The number ballooned by the minute. I let them talk for 20 minutes, then I walked them out. Mom tried to guilt me over not giving her a hug, or even saying goodbye. Dad tried to play it cool, like this was just another normal visit, like they hadn't tossed me out at 16 and then gone on living like I didn't exist. The second the door closed, I broke. Collapsed in the kitchen, half laughing, half crying. It wasn't dignified. Natalie found me on the floor, back against the cabinets. Head tilted up like I was trying to breathe through it. She didn't say anything, just sat beside me. Waited it out. That night, we finalized the plan. The next morning, I called and invited them to dinner. Not our place. A mid-tier restaurant, nothing too fancy, but I booked a private room. They agreed a little too quickly. When they arrived, they found not just me, but Natalie, Tyler, who had flown in that morning, and Max, my actual family, the ones who showed up when it mattered. Mom's face, when she realized this wasn't a secret cash handoff. Perfect. Dad looked like he wanted to order a double whiskey, but hesitated, probably unsure if I was paying. I waited until everyone had settled in and drinks were on the table. Then I started talking. I started by telling them I knew about the mortgage, their faces shifted from confusion to cautious hope. They thought this was a rescue. Then I placed a folder on the table. Inside were the documents showing that their mortgage, their debt, their house was now owned by my LLC. Technically, their home belonged to me. Mom went pale, Dad flushed deep red. Tyler dropped his gaze to the water glass, hiding the grin tugging at his mouth. Natalie didn't say anything, just watched them with the cold, detached interest of someone studying a specimen under glass. I laid out their options calmly, clearly. I could foreclose. I could put them on a payment plan they couldn't possibly keep up with. I could let them rent it under strict, written terms, or I could hand it back free and clear if they met 3 conditions. First, they'd publicly acknowledge what they'd done to me, not just in private, not just to us, to their friends, their neighbors, their entire performative circle. The same people who used to laugh at the 1% joke, they needed to hear what came after. Second, they'd attend family counseling with me and Tyler, not to patch things up, but to hear from us in a structured space exactly what their actions had done to their children. Third, they'd sign a legally binding agreement promising never to ask me for money again. Mom broke down, not performance tears, no audience to play for, just raw, startled crying. Dad stared at the documents like they were written in some lost language. Tyler was the one who finally spoke, said they should be grateful, that I was being generous, that he'd watch me climb out of a pit they'd shoved me into while they turned my bedroom into a place for yoga mats and dumbbells. The rest of the dinner dragged. Mom swung wildly, defensive 1 minute, tearful the next. Dad mostly sat there like furniture, except for this one moment where he looked up and asked if I'd done this just to hurt them. I told him no. This wasn't about revenge. It was about balancing the books. They'd throw me out when I had nothing to offer. Now, they wanted to treat me like an ATM. That's not how family works. That's not how anything works. They left without agreeing to the terms. I gave them 48 hours. Those 2 days felt surreal, a strange blend of power and emptiness. Natalie kept checking in, making tea I never drank, curling up beside me while I stared through time. Tyler camped out on our couch, acting like a bouncer in case they came knocking. Then, on the morning of the deadline, they showed up. They looked hollowed out, worn down. They agreed, not out of understanding, but out of necessity. We signed everything. Natalie's co-worker, a notary, made it official, legal, untouchable. Since then, things have been complicated. So far, they've held to the agreement, probably because they know I could still reverse everything with a single filing. Mom posted a long apology on Facebook. It hit all the right beats, except somehow she still managed to paint herself as the victim. Dad has called twice, both times awkward, like he's testing the waters, trying to see if I'm still angry. Tyler flew home yesterday. Before he left, he gave me a long hug, told me he was proud that I did what he never had the guts to do. Hold them accountable. Is it revenge? Maybe, but it doesn't feel like vengeance. It feels like correction, like fixing an equation that's been wrong since I was 4. Am I happy? No, but satisfied? Yeah. The anger's not gone, it's just changed. Not a hot coal anymore. More like a scar that finally stopped itching. Last night, Natalie and I were lying in bed, talking about regular things, dogs, maybe saving for a house of our own. She asked me if I regretted any of it. And I thought about it. Thought about that 16-year-old kid with $40 and a backpack. About the nights I didn't eat. About the double shifts with a fever because no one was coming to help. Then I thought about who I'd become, what I'd built, the people I'd found who actually see me. And I told her no, I didn't regret it. Not the leaving, not the pain, not even the revenge. Some mistakes turn out to be the best decisions you ever make. Sometimes being the 1% means beating the odds.